to guide us on the rest of the program. Welcome, sir.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya. Your Excellency, Mama Faki, the Chairperson of the African Union Commission. Your Excellency, Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, the Prime Cabinet Secretary of the Republic and Foreign Minister. Excellencies here gathered, ladies and gentlemen. Your Excellency, we are gathered this morning under the aegis of the African Union Commission's Reform Unit and the State Department of Foreign Affairs. For the purpose, Your Excellency, of engaging with Your Excellency on the issue of your championship of the African Union institutional reforms. Your Excellency, you will recall that in February this year, your peers entrusted you with the responsibility of leading the institutional reform process, taking over from your colleague, His Excellency Paul Kagame, the President of Rwanda. Your Excellency, the resolution that mandated you to lead this effort reaffirmed the imperative to strengthen the Union and put in place a system of governance for the AU to make it fit for purpose and enable it to address the multifaceted and unprecedented challenges that Africa is facing. It underscored, Your Excellency, its resolve on the need to finalize the remaining reform priorities of the Union, which are restructuring of the remaining AU organ institutions and offices, as well as study on the division of labor between AU, REX, and member states. Your Excellency, yesterday, under the leadership of Professor Mukoko, this team was edified on the steps and the progress that has been made in the reform process over the last couple of years. On the basis of that, Your Excellency, several proposals were made in terms of what Your Excellency might want to prioritize in the context of your championship of this mandate. And so, Your Excellency, without further ado, I should like to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign Minister of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Dr. Musalia Mudavadi, to make his remarks. But before he comes, Your Excellency, permit me, with a lot of respect, perhaps just to recognize that yesterday as well, we were edified by the views of the Organization on Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, under the leadership of Carlos, who provided an excellent comparative appreciation of the issues. Your Excellency, we have membership here from the AU Reform Unit, and I'm sure Professor Mukoko will have a chance to introduce them. It is now my humble privilege to invite the Prime Cabinet Secretary to share his views. PCS, please.
Okay. Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya and the African Union champion on institutional reforms, Your Excellency Moussa Faki, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, PS Dr. Korir Singoe, Professor Pierre Mukok Mbonjo, Head of the African Union Institutional Reform Implementation Unit, and Mr. Carlos Conde, Head of Division for Africa and the Middle East, Global Relations and Cooperation Directorate of the OECD. Ladies and gentlemen, I am delighted to welcome you here today and hope that you enjoy the warm Kenyan hospitality. We have gathered together to constructively engage on the institutional reforms of the African Union and also for the African Union Commission to apprise His Excellency the President on the pending aspects of the AU reforms. Let me, on behalf of our government and the Kenyan people, extend our heartfelt gratitude to the African heads of state and government for conferring the honor to His Excellency Dr. William Ruto as the champion on AU institutional reforms. Our President is committed to the execution of this noble task, and Kenyans are proudly behind him in delivering on this agenda that touches the welfare of all African nations and people. We look forward to hearing from the Commission on the update of the pending reform areas, challenges and opportunities. Further, we shall seek to develop an implementation plan that will urgently address the remaining work. I believe that the technical team has delved into details and identified key priority issues that will guide His Excellency President Ruto, the champion on the reforms, as he embarks on completing the remaining areas. Your tireless efforts, commitment, and valuable time spent on this task are greatly appreciated. As I conclude, let me reiterate that Kenya prides herself as a founding member of the African Union, and we remain intentional in contributing to the greater good of our union and the prosperity of African people. With these few remarks, it is now my singular honor and privilege to request that His Excellency Moussa Faki comes forward to make his remarks. Thereafter, I can then invite His Excellency the President to make his point.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, I ask your permission to speak in French. Thank you. Excellence, Monsieur William Samuel Ruto, Président de la République du Kenya, champion pour la réforme institutionnelle de l'Union africaine, Excellence Musalia Mudavadi, ministre des Affaires étrangères et de la diaspora du Kenya, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs. C'est avec un réel plaisir que je prends la parole devant vous ce jour à l'occasion de la retraite sur la réforme institutionnelle de l'Union africaine que vous avez bien voulu organiser dans cette magnifique ville de Naivasha.
Your Excellency, Dr. William Ruto, President of the Republic of Kenya and champion of the African Union on institutional reform. Mr. Musalia, Minister of Foreign Affairs and of the diaspora. It is a great pleasure for me to be here and to speak before you on the occasion of the retreat on the institutional reform, which you have kindly accepted to organize here in this magnificent city of Naivasha.
Je suis heureux de venir à Naivasha après 20 ans, où, en son temps Premier ministre du Tchad, j'ai pris part à un événement important organisé par le Kenya, piloté par le Kenya, qui est celui de l'accord entre les frères soudanais, entre le gouvernement de Khartoum et le SPLM.
It's after 20 years, and I'm happy to be back in Naivasha. As Prime Minister of my country, Chad, I came to attend a very important event which was organized and piloted by Kenya. It was the agreement between the Sudanese, that is the government of Khartoum, and the SPLM.
Cet accord qui a permis l'indépendance du Soudan du Sud, c'est peut-être un bon présage pour le succès également de cette réforme stratégique pour notre continent.
This agreement, which led to the independence of South Sudan, augurs well for the institutional reform of our organization.
Monsieur le Président, permettez-moi de vous remercier chaleureusement pour l'heureuse initiative qui est celle d'échanger sur l'état d'avancement de la réforme ainsi que sur les chemins qui restent à parcourir pour son achèvement. Cette nouvelle initiative témoigne, s'il en est besoin, de votre ferme et constant engagement en faveur de la réussite du processus de réforme institutionnelle.
Mr. President, I would like to thank you for taking this happy initiative of allowing us to exchange views on the institutional reform, of what has been achieved so far and what remains to be done in order to complete it. And it is with your firm and constant commitment that we'll be able to succeed with this reform.
Cet engagement, le vôtre, préexiste à votre désignation comme champion de la réforme institutionnelle de l'Union africaine en février dernier. En effet, au cours d'un échange que nous avions eu au mois d'avril 2023, vous avez déjà manifesté votre vif intérêt pour le processus de réforme de l'Union africaine.
It is this commitment which led to your appointment by your peers as the champion of the African Union for the institutional reform that was this year. And then the exchange of views that we had in 2023, where you expressed your keen interest in moving forward the reform of the organization.
À votre demande, je vous ai envoyé tour à tour le docteur Donald Kaberuka pour vous briefer sur le financement de l'Union et sur le fonds de la paix, et ensuite le professeur Pierre Moukoko Mbonjo pour vous présenter le travail déjà fait sur la réforme des organes de l'Union et sur la division du travail entre celle-ci, les communautés économiques régionales et les États membres depuis 2017.
Within this framework, I sent to you in turn Dr. Donald Kaberuka to brief you on the financing of the African Union and also on the Peace Fund of the African Union, and also Professor Pierre Moukoko, the head of the Reform Unit, to brief you on the progress made on the reform of the various organs of the African Union, and also the division of labor between the African Union Commission, the regional economic communities, and the member states of the African Union.
Je peux également témoigner, Monsieur le Président, que depuis votre désignation comme champion de la réforme, vous n'avez cessé de promouvoir la réforme dans toutes vos prises de parole à l'occasion des grandes rencontres internationales. Je cite le 60e anniversaire de l'ADVERTISE à Nairobi, le sommet Afrique-Corée du Sud il y a quelques jours à Séoul et également les derniers sommets du G7 en Italie.
I can bear witness to your commitment since your appointment as the champion of the African Union for institutional reform, the way you have been promoting the reform of the organization in your various statements that you have been making at major international fora and international meetings. And I can mention here the 60th anniversary of the ADB, African Development Bank, which was held in Nairobi. Then the Africa-Korea summit that was held in Seoul recently, and also at the G7 meeting in Italy.
À la lumière de tout ça, je puis affirmer que la réforme est en de bonnes mains. Après le passage de témoins effectué par le président Paul Kagame, champion de la réforme de 2016 à 2024, et à qui je rends un hommage mérité pour la supervision réussie de la réforme pendant les 8 dernières années.
In the light of all this, I want to affirm that the various meetings and work that has been done, we believe that the reform is in good hands. And since the handing over from President Paul Kagame, who was in charge of to supervise the reform since 2016 up to 2024, and to whom I would like to pay a very well-deserved tribute. And I want to say that he has been supervising this reform over these past 8 years.
Beaucoup a été fait depuis 2017. C'est l'année qui correspondait à ma prise de fonction moi-même en tant que président de la commission. Le professeur Moukoko, en charge de la réforme, va vous certainement détailler dans une matrice tout ce qui a été fait secteur par secteur. Donc, je m'abstiendrai de m'appesantir davantage à ce sujet.
A lot has been done since 2017, and since that was the year when I took office as the chairperson of the African Union. And Professor Moukoko will be able to give you in detail, in a matrix, sector by sector, everything that has been done, and therefore I will not dwell at length on this matter.
Cependant, il convient de souligner que si des progrès appréciables ont été accomplis depuis le lancement de la réforme, des sérieux obstacles se sont dressés et continuent de se dresser sur l'achèvement de ce processus.
Significant progress has been made since we initiated and launched the reform. But I want also to point out that there have been serious obstacles that have come up and emerged on the way and continue to emerge in order to enable us to complete this reform.
Monsieur le Président, nous comptons sur votre engagement et votre détermination pour non seulement contourner ces obstacles, mais aussi et surtout convaincre vos pairs chefs d'État de la nécessité
Is it okay? Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Your Excellency Musa Faki. From us listening, I think the challenges ahead are clearly very, very heavy. And it is for this reason that His Excellency the President will take up this critical role of championing for these reforms. the examples given and the direction and the challenges are not issues that can be taken lightly, and they'll require a lot of heavy lifting. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's on this basis that I would request you to be upstanding so that we can invite His Excellency the President to champion the road and the journey to the reforms of the African Union. Your Excellency the President, thank you.
Please, let's take our seats. Your Excellency, the Chair of the African Union, Mohamed Faki, Your Excellency, Prime Cabinet Secretary, Principal Secretary, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Naivasha. I know that you came in, some of you came in yesterday, some of you came in the day before, but let me join the many people who have already welcomed you to Kenya and welcome you to Naivasha. As Musa Faki has said, Naivasha is a place of making very critical decisions. In this Naivasha, the matters of Southern Sudan were negotiated here in Naivasha. That led to a new country called South Sudan. In Naivasha also we negotiated issues to do with Somalia. And therefore we are in the right place to make sure that the heavy responsibility that has been outlined by our chair as we discuss this responsibility and mandate, I am very confident that we will do a good job of it. Listening to Chair Musa Faki, I almost was convinced that maybe I shouldn't have taken up this responsibility. I was wondering whether I made the right decision. Because it looks daunting. But I want to appreciate and express my deep appreciation to my fellow heads of state and government for their confidence in assigning me the task of finalizing the outstanding institutional reforms of the African Union. I recognize the admirable effort and progress made by my predecessor in this very noble task and sincerely thank His Excellency President Paul Kagame, the President of the Republic of Rwanda, for his exemplary delivery of reforms so far. I am honored to have this chance to build on his good work and commit to expeditiously advance the remaining reforms to their logical conclusion with your support and the support of many others that we will gather along the way. We all know that Africa is endowed with abundant potential that largely remains untapped. And this denies our continent immense opportunity in various economic sectors, in agriculture, in mining, in energy, in manufacturing, and also in climate action. I think it is correct to say that Africa cannot continue to play in the periphery. This is an inflection point in world development, and Africa must take up its central role because that's where we are today, with enormous resources in energy, especially renewable energy, with almost 60% of the world's arable and cultivated land, and with our huge demographic dividend of young people in this continent. It is not possible for us to continue to be in the margins. And we must not marginalize ourselves to the margins. We must drive ourselves to the center. And that is why it is necessary for us to build the institutions, especially the Africa Union, so that we can use it to position this continent appropriately. Under the Africa Union Agenda 2063, we have a coherent pathway to unleash this potential and propel the continent into the league of highly developed societies within a few generations. To do so, we must intentionally and deliberately align our foremost Pan-African institution with the continent's aspirations and reconfigure it to become agile and responsive. And this is the work and the assignment that we have. And ladies and gentlemen, let me say this, that we have a historic opportunity to reform the Africa Union and make it fit for purpose in light of the collective developmental issues and aspirations of our continent. We must execute this reform with resolve and a sense of urgency commensurate with the magnitude of our challenges, potential, and ambition. Africans are highly enterprising. We have a huge, educated, young people, skilled and youthful, and are ready to play their part in developing our continent. We must not let them down, and we must not keep them waiting. I appreciate the effort that has gone into achieving the reforms made so far in the AU. As a result, decision-making at the AU Assembly has been streamlined to achieve significant clarity and economy. Similarly, the structure and mandates of senior ranks of commission has been aligned and cemented with rationalized selection modalities. Additionally, the AU's commission organs and specialized agencies have also been restructured. The new Partnership for Africa's Development has been transformed into the Africa Union Development Agency, ushering in a new era of ambitious pursuit of shared prosperity. Likewise, 42 out of the 55 institutions have been analyzed and reviewed, while the structure of the Commission has been fully reviewed and approved by the Executive Council. As Musa Faki has told us, there is some work to be done by other institutions to make sure that what has been agreed upon is progressed to conclusion. A new AU for a new era is beginning to take shape, and the next phase of reforms, which I am privileged to lead, will complete this exemplary work. A critical reform that I shall focus on is the division of labor between the member states, the Africa Union, and the regional economic communities, as well as the AU specialized agencies. Particularly, there are functional overlaps that urgently need resolution to enhance our union's operational efficiency. Economists have predicted another year of slow growth in the world in 2024, meaning that budget constraints will continue to limit our capacity to execute the AU Agenda 2063. There will be no resources to waste, and greater efficiency is imperative. We cannot afford to spread our meager resources too thin across institutions that perform overlapping functions. As I said during the IDA 21 Replenishment Summit in Nairobi, As African heads of state and government, we are strongly committed to reforming the African Union Commission to make it fit for purpose and to empower it with the capacity to engage the rest of the world on behalf of the 1.4 billion people in this continent. At the same time, it is time for us to reform the Pan-African Parliament to enable it exercise oversight over the AU Commission to make it much more accountable and to finally establish an African Court of Justice. Let me put this in context. I have had occasion to have a conversation with Dr. Kaberuka on AU financing. I have had occasion to engage with Professor Mukoko on this reform process. And as I have said, I am very confident of what President Kagame and this team have achieved so far. What is remaining, in my estimation, is about 4 areas that I intend that we will, all of us, focus. Number 1 is the AU Commission. As Musa Faki has said, there is need for greater internal efficiency and alignment so that we have a fit-for-purpose Africa Union Commission that delivers on its mandate without blockades, roadblocks, and unnecessary bureaucracy that is limiting its ability to deliver at the moment, and to align it with the other institutions so that we do not end up with a dysfunctional commission. There is need for us to have a conversation as member states. And there is need for us to agree that we need to give the Commission sufficient power, donate sufficient power and authority to the Commission to be able to act on our behalf. We cannot have an organization that we have appointed. We cannot have a commission that we have appointed, that we pay for, and we have denied them the authority to execute the mandate for which we have set it up to achieve. We must make up our minds that if we have set up this institution and we have given it a job to do, we must give it the power to do it. We must give it the authority to do it. Number 2 is that every institution must be held to account. And therefore, the accountability mechanism is also going to improve the quality of service that we will get from the Commission. As it is now, the Pan-African Parliament is an advisory organization, doesn't have authority to interrogate the budget, doesn't approve some of the appointments of the institution, does not, participate meaningfully in the governance of our organization. And we need to interrogate whether the 275 members is not too big an organization for us to fund, and whether we should rationalize the size of the Pan-African Parliament and give it sufficient work and mandate and authority in line with the Constitutive Act of the African Union. Like all democratic institutions, for example, in Kenya today, there's a big debate in Parliament because it is our belief in institutions. We have an executive that proposes certain measures. The people and Parliament interrogate it, provides oversight, and we have a judicial system that also makes sure that if there are any issues, the judiciary can speak to those issues. So our Pan-African Parliament must take up a proper place in the governance of our institution so that we can guarantee ourselves that these institutions will work accountably. Listening to our chair and the obvious and sometimes, unavoidable conflicts between different institutions and even the overlap that is there. There is no mechanism that is in place to resolve some of these conflicts, some of the overlaps. And that is why it is absolutely necessary for us to finally establish the African Court of Justice. That way, if there is a conflict between the PRC and the Commission, the court should be able to resolve that and to provide guidance that in accordance with the Constitutive Act of the AU, this is where the mandate of the Commission ends, this is where the mandate of the PRC begins, and this is how it should go forward. At the moment, there is no mechanism. And all the time, it is then referred to heads of state. And it becomes very difficult because the heads of state are not a court. So these are some of the what is limiting our institution. And an Africa Commission, an AU that is not properly functional, undermines the potential of our continent and the opportunities therein. And so, finally, the fourth issue is how to finance our organization. And that needs to be a very candid conversation. I have had occasion to discuss with many of my colleagues on this subject, and everybody seems to agree that we need to take a firmer position in funding our organization and working with others so that we can achieve our aspirations. Let me say this, that many of the threats and challenges we face are complex, dynamic, and global in nature, calling for collective action on an unprecedented multilateral scale. Africa is committed to making its critical contribution not only to human progress, but also to efforts to find solutions. Because of our unique and abundant resource endowments and productive potential, our continent offers a viable and transformative pathway to a future of prosperity for all of humanity. We bring to the table of multilateral strategic deliberation and global problem solving the promise of unlocking an unprecedented era of global economic growth and prosperity. I have had the occasion in a number of forums across the continent to outline the outstanding reforms which, in my considered view, shall be key areas of focus for me to deliver on my mandate efficiently. However, this outline, as I have told you, the 4 areas: to reform the Commission, to work on our Parliament, to make sure that we have a court, and to ensure that we have a proper funding mechanism. This outline is indicative, and I remain open to consultation and deliberation. I am confident that you have deliberated vigorously and exhaustively on various priorities, and I am interested in tapping into your extensive operational experience in AU institutions to enrich and refine our reform agenda and to explore innovative and inclusive ways to take the AU to the next level. I intend to work systematically in building on the substantial work accomplished by His Excellency President Kagame, and further, I shall focus on establishing a robust and sustainable funding mechanism for both the AU regular and other programs. Let me also confirm that when we talk about potential, when we talk about, for example, renewable energy potential, in this town of Naivasha, we just signed with not be realized unless we organize ourselves appropriately to tap into the opportunities that the enormous resources we have present. Let me also give you another example. About 30 kilometers from here, we have 5,000 acres that we are in the process of developing with our Free Exim Bank. To unlock the industrial potential and manufacturing capacity using renewable energy in this county of Nakuru. And therefore, it speaks to the kind of potential that Africa Union has in working with us to unlock the potential that exists in our continent. Building Africa Union institutions, including financial institutions, including other institutions, will help us unlock this potential. And therefore, let's work together in recognizing the importance, urgency, and the weight of expectations and the transformational implications of the work of reforming the institutions of the Africa Union. I am confident that I can rely on you individually and collectively to contribute meaningfully to taking the reform agenda forward and actualizing the dream of the Africa Union for our time and for generations ahead of us. I wish all of us success in our continued deliberations on this very historic agenda. Thank you very much, and I look forward to us again.
Let's put our hands together once again for His Excellency the President.